And the first presentation will be by Magnus Jones. He's from Ernst Young, and he will present how to navigate Web3 and Metaverse within regulatory frameworks, example of Adidas NFT drop, and world premiere of Norwegian Government launch of Office in Metaverse.
Navigating the landscape within Web3 and Metaverse from a regulatory perspective is not necessarily easy. On the last crypto asset conference, I had a rant, I would say, towards authorities in terms of how unclear the regulatory landscape is. That session is still out there on the front page of the Crypto Assets Conference website, so you can watch it. I stand 100% for everything I said there still today. But still, it is possible to deal with it. But you have to be sort of aware of the pitfalls. And today, I'm also partially going to do a rant towards all people out there who is doing specifically NFT projects without understanding the risk and liabilities around what's doing. Because it's not so that you can just move forward. We have assisted several actors within this landscape, among others these guys. We assisted Adidas on their drop. And from that perspective, we looked into some of these areas. Because what we clearly see, regardless of Adidas or not, it's a bunch of 20-year-old people who drives the initiatives on all these corporates. The C-level group has no clue what a bloody NFT is. They just trust everyone because they hear everyone talking about it. And they also do it because competitor A and B and C, D, E, and F, and G, and A, and CALM, and P is doing it. And then they say, just clear it internal from the legal department. Well, try to clear something from a legal department on an area where they have never touched up on. So what happened in this case was that a guy from the supply chain, a legal guy, the party killer, which they're normally known as, reached out to us and said, Magnus, we have 15 effing internal lawyers, and we have had meetings lasting for hours, days, months, and we're getting nowhere. I hope you and my team, you and your team can help me. So me, some Deutsch colleagues, and also some Dutch colleagues, we went in there. Within 1 hour, we had managed to solve from a high-level perspective all the challenges they had spent months on, just because we know how to classify the token attributes, to pour the token over the table and find out what is it, what is this creature. But the challenges for them right there was from this legal guy on the supply chain side. Because these guys, they were also doing something physical. They're releasing virtual and physical stuff. This guy had a trade co. And you know, you have a trade co, i.e. with IP licenses in Liechtenstein, while a physical warehouse in Switzerland, while the revenue of income is supposed to go to the German AG. I was just wondering about the transfer pricing elements, if it's not a person from the US who buys the NFT token, but a guy from Guatemala or you, Magnus, in Norway, who chooses just to take the NFT and not the sweater. What's the transfer pricing elements about that one, keeping it in my warehouse or on the way to US or whatever? Or for that sake, what about sales tax VAT, how to address that one? Have you guys, by the way, cleared sales tax VAT from that perspective? What do you mean? No, by the third-party platforms that is selling this to you, for you guys. Isn't that their responsibility? Try to ask OpenSea, try to ask Artblocks, try to ask any one of them. Do they have a clear overview of it? No, we believe it's not. I can assure you, all NFT projects out there have not only a latent exposure, but they have a high risk towards that 20% X plus additional fees will be charged to them if local governments conclude that there is a sales tax or a VAT on these services. And by the way, they should also be possibly registered when I in Norway is buying this token for VAT in Norway, foreign remotely deliverable electronic services. No doubt at all. But still, there's uncertainty. And that's down to that everyone believes you can do whatever you would like within this landscape. Because governments, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the tools, they don't currently have the resources. But I can promise you, within not 1 year, maybe not even 2, but within 3 years, they will open these cases retrospectively, and then there's no fun trying to answer all these questions. So for the companies who addresses this and understands also the implication about the tax and legal total framework, which is down to, we also asked, have you guys done a smart contract review? Smart contract what, you said? Smart contract review of what? Of the third-party platform who is selling this for you. Do they not have control of their own code? Maybe it should be smart to look into it. And in general, because we assist everything from the smallest projects to public listed entities like this one. And we have never touched upon one case where everything has been 100%. We find latent exposures there. It's all down to the level of risk that you're willing to take. But think about it, if you are an internal lawyer and you have to sign off to something and you receive a report from EY's team on smart contract review with possibly yellow flags, do you want to sign off or not? That's not an easy task. So not only this one, but down to the questions about royalties, the great use cases that everyone says, this is the future of NFTs and the future of finance, because finally we can issue this funny monkey there for 100, and then we sell it for 1,000 and we get 15%. Yeah, you can get 15, you can even get 20, you can get 25 without any blinking, I said. We can double the income? My God, you're a great consultant, Magnus. Let's go out and celebrate. And I was like, yeah, sure, but maybe we should think about, are your audit committee ready to receive cryptocurrencies? Aren't we receiving money? Nah, not necessarily from the smart contract. You're receiving most likely Ether. But that should be fine. Yeah, sure, but I think you need to prepare an audit committee for it. Are your accountants ready for it? Or let me rephrase it. Are you ready to receive cryptocurrencies that comes from North Korea? We're not selling to North Korea. Are you crazy? No, you know who I am. You do the KYC, but you cannot stop me from selling to a guy in North Korea. And then you will receive cryptocurrencies that comes from North Korea. You can burn it, you can claim it in different ways, but you have received it. Are your audit committee ready to handle these kind of issues? Maybe we should not include that functionality. That could be wise. These are just some questions in terms of also terms and conditions, because I've never ever met up on one single case where the terms and condition on the third-party platform that is selling your services or goods is matching towards what is written actually in the smart contract, and what is written on your website, and what is written in your terms and conditions, and what all your freelancers is writing out there in terms of social media, on Telegram, on Discord, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, whatever. You have creative people who will adds a little spark towards it always to make it a little bit more interesting. Well, guess what? That's interesting for financial authorities also. A little twist towards a text and suddenly it's a financial instrument. That's no fun. You need a prospectus. Oh, put the whole project on hold? That's no fun. You need to clear these things. You need to understand this whole landscape in the context also of money laundering and KYC. You need to think about it. If there's a gain, there's a tax. Think about that one. There's no such thing as a free haven as it occurs right now out there. And the challenge around all of these things is that it's doable, like in this case, where they want to address it, but for most startups, they cannot afford to do all of these steps, or they don't have the time. But as mentioned, it's not only a high risk, there's a de facto risk laying there, not now, not next year, but maybe in 3 years plus. Reopening these cases, no fun at all. And then I have not even touched upon how this is going to evolve in the metaverse sphere. This is for you guys to read. You will have the slides and everything. But think about the DAO sphere. The same thing there. There's no such thing as a free haven. You cannot just move. Governments will jump the fence where it is the lowest. Only last week I had a workshop together with all legal responsibilities in the Nordic register offices, where we touched upon DAOs specifically, from a legal perspective. Should Norway allow and do like Wyoming and Marshall Islands and say, well, DAOs, based upon certain criteria, should be legal, possibly, or should be restricted? We're not certain yet, but what we're certain about is that if there's an income, there's also a tax, no doubt. So these issues will only arise even more when we move into the sphere of metaverse. But as a rule of thumb, I would say, think a bit more in a classic way. Think about what this is. It's a three-dimensional website. You go into a URL address. It's what we call in Norwegian, same shit, new wrapping, same taxes, same legal methods apply for it. Wake up out there, guys. There's no such thing as a free haven. And these issues around all of this is why we have focused on this one on EY from an early point of view, because we clearly see they are coming out there. And we, and also governments, are preparing, because it's down to this. Forget about the hyped line about internet users or whatever. Focus on the gray one, which is the facto numbers of the growth of crypto users globally. 350 million-ish around now. Within 2 to 4 years, we expect 1 billion users. Regardless of volatility, it will be volatile, right? No doubt. But think about it in this perspective, that if the market is more than doubling, how are we going to handle it from a government point of view? How are we going to handle it from a company point of view in terms of possibilities, opportunities, but also on the other side, understanding the risk and latent exposures that lays out there? And if you just look into some numbers from the survey the EY have the official survey of how many Norwegians who has crypto assets. And this year, we notice that in Norway right now, for the age of 39 and younger, we have more people who has crypto assets than ordinary stocks and shares. There are a movement, and you can like it, you can hate it, or be indifferent towards it, but cryptocurrencies has come to stay. Not necessarily all the 20,000 X shitcoins out there, and they all will be volatile, and I cannot pinpoint, no one in this room can pinpoint which one that will make it. But they have come to stay in the combination of stablecoins with noise around, but also in the combination of CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. They all are into an ecosystem together with ordinary fiat currencies. That is what we have to prepare for. But still, it's the railway we are talking about. And that's also why we at EY, we have moved into this space. We have an office in Decentraland. You can visit on these coordinates. It's a horrible user experience. And you can also say, oh, you spent 4 minutes loading this shit and I cannot even download it on my cell phone. What's the use case? Why are you guys in there? Why have we built a talent tree, as we call it? Well, because we want to have our fingers dirty in a positive way. Because we want to be there. We are there. You are not there. We wanted to learn. We wanted to be there to understand. And by the way, we're also doing some benefits. It's not only for the marketing PR jippo that we're doing this stuff, but we're having our business presentations in there for the younger generation, for all new people joining EY. And just some weeks ago, I was presenting at an induction program for all new students or people coming from students joining EY. 3/4 of them had either NFTs or crypto assets. They know this market very well. We are hiring people based upon that none of the other big four has this. It might be, call it an easy, stupid solution or whatever, but there's something different. We understand it. We move. We're there. We're there to learn. So we don't need any further use cases of it, but we still have other use cases because we're also doing business in there, because we are meeting people who is younger generation who has lots of crypto assets. They need to pay their taxes. We meet them in there and actually do business. It's a totally new mindset. It's a shift. And that shift has come also further in terms of how actually governments are looking into this one. And this is a slide, partially in Norwegian, just to explain the name BRØK, which is the Business Entity Registers ecosystem for ownership information. And this is a bit small, but you can look into it in detail. Quite interesting. They have set up a public Ethereum blockchain solution for as a start to handle the shareholder register. Because they believe that registers will not be dealt with and created with in the way that they are dealt with today. They are going to be dealt with in a different way. Not necessarily saying that Ethereum is the way, or not necessarily saying it is blockchain. We're going to tokenize every share, whatever. But right now, this is the railway that we see moving. We have to be there to learn, but we're also open and honest and saying, well, something new might occur, we might change our way. But this is just to highlight and a context to why also Norwegian business entity registers, together with tax authorities now, are doing a project together with EY, where we're moving them into Metaverse as well. So if you please could bring on Mr. Andreas Hamnes from the register office now, who is going to join us on a Zoom link, hopefully. Good morning, Andreas.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, having me here.
Glad you can join.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
And as you guys can see on the screen here as well, this is a first draft of I would say maybe a hairy idea and solution that you and I had together, Andreas. And can you tell us a little bit about why public governments are moving into Metaverse? Why the heck should they move into such a thing where we're trying to build some creative Norwegian elements of fishermen and some northern light in a lighthouse to provide information out there to the both younger generation, but also maybe the older ones or the curious ones? And also, why do you guys do this together with the tax authorities?
I will try, but okay, in 5 minutes I should have the whole day, but okay, I'll be as brief as possible. First of all, I just have to say that we do have the blessing of the general director on this project as well. He's just so that we have the top level anchoring of going this on this explorative journey. Thank you. There, I'll see the the slide. Obviously, this is work in progress. No, but seriously, first of all, there is a background, but luckily you talked a little bit about this. We've been in the blockchain decentralized space for a couple of years now, and we have learned a lot in those years, both in GDPR issues, both in how to actually publish information, how we can actually speed up processes, having great cost benefits on how we actually do the way how we do registers today, especially when you only need to publish something in the first scene. But what we see is that the tokenomics of this and working with identity, organizational identity, wallets, verifiable credentials, we see that this is so much the new way of actually sharing data and also having control on the GDPR and also several of the consent solutions. But back to the metaverse and why we actually are joining into in this example, decentralized. It could be either one. I don't think we know the future, which one is going to prevail, or how these integrations are going to happen. But this is basically to learn, to get our fingers dirty, and especially trying to meet and understand the next generation of users of public services. And I think that is our responsibility to actually be ready for that. And our next generation of politicians, accountants, criminals, public workers. So that's basically why we try to learn, try to get our fingers to see, is this a way to actually bring public services on new platforms? I think that's basically why we try to do this. And I think that to be able to have a little bit fun doing that, it also makes public government work a little bit more fun. And sorry, I'll speak too much, but continue.
And I like that element because, you know, when working with these guys, it's like they want to address the audience out there, the younger generation. And that's why we even are going to include a classic Norwegian element of an outdoor toilet where you can go in and get information about your shitcoins. You need to sort of put things on the edge, even as a government, to understand that, you know, you have to talk the same language as the ones out there. And also, I think, for the purpose, you know, Andreas, like we discussed, that it's not only that we as consultants need younger forces that wants to join us, but like you say, I don't like that you bloody consultants are emptying all our resources because you have a metaverse office. It could be like, you know, authorities also need to make themselves more attractive for the younger generation. Why should they join authorities? And also in the context here, I think that it's very important to highlight why tax authorities are also there together with you guys at the register office. And that's because Norwegian tax authorities, the Crypto Task Force group, they were the first in the world to issue guidance on how to tax DeFi. They also had world's first guidance on how to tax NFTs, which we have assisted them on. And there we're going to provide this kind of information as a start, just as a start in there, and also how people normally of a younger generation, or even older ones, don't have a clue about when do you have a liable obligation to register for VAT when you're dealing with these kind of services, or how to register an office with Andreas. And these kind of elements is highly significant. And I think we can also add towards Andreas that from the internal, not fights that we have had, but sort of the challenging meetings that we had to convince people within both our and yours organizations around the fact that one can say, oh, I heard last week it was 38 users in Decentraland or something. Why are you doing this? Or even if they had 380 or 3,800, what is the use case? But the use case is rather, like we have seen, that when EY is doing an event there, we cannot only have 380, we can have 380,000 people joining us. And no one is at our office, or at most, when we don't have an event. But when we have an event, we can gather all people there together. And that's in the same way here. It's for information purposes only. So cautious of time, do you have just some last words here, Andreas?
I do, because I'll say that I think that the metaverse also will changes the rules of the game for how to cooperate with between the cooperation between public and private sector. We can actually seamlessly create public or services without having those silos that we have in the real world today. So here we can actually cooperate and use the same ecosystems and create services where you can actually, where it's so seamless between public and, for example, banks, finance. And I think there's a huge opportunities coming here, and that's also something that we want to explore. So anyway, that's my closing remarks on that, the room of possibilities.
Thanks a lot, Andreas. The future is definitely exciting if you grasp the opportunities, but also understand the risks that are out there currently. So by that, I would just like to also keep a brief note towards, please follow the panel debate of my great colleague Jan, who is here, and the rest of the team. They also have a great podcast that you can listen into. And if you're interested to learn more, EY is deep within this landscape also from a building perspective. We have more than 300 core blockchain developers. We have 14 core blockchain offices. Not many people know that the boring auditor is also doing something fun. So go in there, you can watch the replays. It's great information. And if you have any questions around the ecosystem also here in Germany, I can also mention that the project that we're doing together with the Business Entity Register is built and created by German colleagues also. So that's also why we have sort of the joint interest in here. So reach out to Jan there if you have any questions. Or you can reach out and connect with me here. More than happy, have a chat, whatever. We're not here to charge you way too expensive legal hours. We're here to build this ecosystem together with you. So don't be afraid to reach out to us, even though we are lawyers. So by that, I would just like to thank you a lot for the attention and looking forward for the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Magnus Jones.